Hey, how's it going, team? It's approaching about 1 in the morning, and I'm doing a quick quote here, and I wanted to just walk you guys what a quick estimate would be like. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Google Chrome tab. So pretty much there's only two tabs you need to focus on here. It's going to be your Gmail and your TaxWise. All right. Until our software gets up, then it'll be one and the other. All right. So just to show you guys exactly how you can do an estimate, what it should be like, type of questions that should be asked. Here's everything that we need right here to do a basic estimate. Okay, some are more complicated. You'll need to ask a lot more questions before a basic return. This would be how an ideal basic return estimate will go. So pretty much you'll send the person the questions that I provided you in the group, and I send this message to every single one of my clients. I never ever really edit any of the verbiage here. I send the exact same message to every single client. Now, unless this person is getting paid 1099, then I would pretty much file the form, replace the W-2 right here with the 1099. All right. So, not really a big deal. So here are the questions. Do you have your W-2? Are you filing with your spouse and or claiming dependents? Okay. Do you or dependents have health care for the tax year? If so, is it from the marketplace? What is your occupation specifically? All right, and I like to ask is that way I know kind of how like to work the return. And I'll go into I'll go into that more in more depth later. So, are you a military veteran? Let you know if they can qualify for the 2106 employee expense form. How much did you receive last year? This right here, I should add. I'm gonna edit this, and I'll change the verbiage to how much was your refund last year? Because some people like this guy here, you'll see, he thinks that I'm asking him about his income. Okay, so then you'll put what type of tax outcome will you be satisfied with this year? This is kind of how I can gauge how much, if I'm doing a good job to meet the expectations of the client. And last one, did you attend school or run a business? Letting me know that, so I won't miss out on their American Opportunity Credit for school with the 1098 form, 8863 in our system. That's the name of the form. And I asked them if they run a business. That way I won't, of course, miss out on deductions that they should qualify for. Now, just to be straightforward, I don't know this guy. This is actually one of our team members is doing a quote for this guy, and I'm kind of helping him out by recording this video. And I thought, you know what, why not just create a video for the whole entire team? So, with that being said, he's answering the questions that stated above. He's saying no to a W-2, but he does have a W-2. Don't know why he put that. He's saying maybe to filing with the dependent. I'm assuming that he has a girlfriend or a wife that is filing with the dependent, and they're trying to see who gets more back. Yes to healthcare, but not entire year for me and wife. So he has a wife, he's a spouse. So he's either going to be filing married jointly or married separately. So I'm assuming he's trying to figure out which one is the greater of the two. So he's saying that if you have healthcare for 6 to 12 months, then you can pretty much count it for the entire year. But in estimates or in returns, we'll put it for the exact months. In returns, sorry, not in estimates. In estimates, you'll put it for you can just do an estimated 7 to 9 months. So you can, I'll show you in the healthcare form. It's really not a big deal. But the warehouse associate, that's his job. No to the question of if he's a military veteran, and he's asking is the amount that he received on his pay stub, and that's a no. And he's saying as much as he can get, and you'll get that answer a lot. And the last thing, he does not attend school or have a business. Okay. So I'm not going to open up his W-2 and show you his W-2. I actually have his W-2 on my phone in my email. So I'll go ahead and go to TaxWise. And just like most estimates, I'll either go off the W-2 social and I'll put the W-2 social in there. I don't recommend doing this, but it is something that I can do whenever I'm doing a quick quote, okay, a quick estimate. So I'm going to make up a social. And then I'll go to tax forms, not to interview. I'll go to tax forms. All right, so once this load up, you'll see how easy and fast it is to do an estimate. So watch this. Don't really care about his name at the moment, okay? Even though this guy's name is John, which is very ironic, I'm gonna put John Doe. His address, 12575 Uline Drive. I kind of like always putting the address. That way, if I do multiple estimates, I can always go back and identify the client based upon the address that they provided. Okay. So I'll go to his zip code. Remember, it'll always populate. So boom. This right here, you can skip. This right here is important, but since I kind of saw in the photo that he has a younger son, it's not really important right now to have his birth date. So, for example, if someone is claiming their brother or stepbrother and they're 23 and their stepbrother's 24, you need to know this information before you qualify them for earned income credit, because you can give them the wrong information for a tax return. Okay, and they'll be mad at you because you'll quote them something higher than what they're actually getting. Excuse me. So that's probably another adjustment I have to make to this is their date of birth. So I'll ask them what their date of birth is and what's the date of birth for all the dependents on the tax return. So this is actually an older script now that I'm noticing that, but it's no issue. We'll fix this up so that everything can go smoothly for you. With that being said, come back to birth date. We'll assume this guy is born then, and we'll come back and change all this once we do the real return. Okay. He is a warehouse worker. All right, come down. And so right now he wants to file separately. Okay, he just wants to see how much he's getting back. So I'll put married filing separately. All right. I don't believe you have put in this information when you're doing a quote. Like I said, every year this changes, but for now we'll leave that blank. So, did your spouse ever live with you in 2019? This is an important question. You have to put yes or no depending upon the living situation of the spouse. Most of the time it's going to be a yes. Okay. If yes, did you and your spouse live together anytime after June 30th of 2019? Most of the time it'll be a yes. Okay. So wait, the only way that this is possible is they have to be probably more like military or whatnot. So I would probably tell this guy, like, yo, make sure you file, if you're going to file separate with your wife, if you filed the previous year without having your wife on a tax return, and you filed the previous 3 years without having your wife on a tax return, and this is the first time you're considering filing with one another, if he wants to file for himself, he can literally just put single. Okay. That's just something that I will do for my client. Instead of going through all of this married filing separately, he can put single, or if they want to file together, he put married jointly. All right, with that being said, I'm scrolling down because remember, the same deductions are given to single and married filing separately. They're both very low deduction amounts. So, again, no dependent. This does not apply to Texas. Actually, I'm not sure if the guy was in Texas. Let me take a look at his W-2. Yes, he's in Texas. And also, I made a mistake on his main info. That is not his information. So yeah, do be sure to double check the W-2, because sometimes you can make the mistake that I just did, which what I basically did was I put in his job's address, the corporation address that he works for. Okay, this is his actual address. All right, with that being said, all of this I would most likely fill this in 0121 2020. And just take a look at this main info sheet. I literally only filled in a few spots. His name, his address, his birth date, his occupation, his filing status, and that is about it. And the date and the authorizing the PIN. This is not relevant at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down. I want those bank forms to be active, so I'm going to put in the pins and the dates. All right. Remember, when that green check mark appears, it means that you're finished with that page. Nothing else to do on that page. Don't forget here, okay? You have to make sure you hit this box. Be very, very, very careful when you're on this page. Notice that this section here looks exactly the same as this section down here. So you could be scrolling super fast and scroll all the way down and notice it says consent denied. So you're denying this person to actually file their taxes under this e-file. So don't rush these pages. You want to be very careful not to scroll all the way to the bottom and put in the taxpayer's PIN with the date here. Understand that it has to be right here where it says consent granted. So with that being said, boom, boom, I'm accepting that. All green check marks. All right, remember, this page right here is not relevant because we have not put in any numbers. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start putting in numbers. So I go boom, W2. Taxpayer, that's his address, that's on his W2. This stuff, irrelevant, not going to touch it. So this is now his number. So remember, whatever this number is right here, the 1, that's where you're going to look at on the W2, wherever the 1 is. So it's going to be 5847787. Okay. See, now it says automatically he owes $6,000. Okay. So that means once I put in this withheld, which is 5348.77, I'm assuming he's going to owe about $800, $600. Okay, I did the math all wrong there. Yeah, so pretty much on his tax return on the federal withheld is $53.49, right? So that means that he underpaid $690 to the IRS. So he still owes them. When this is red, it means that he owes the IRS. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure he's wondering, can I get a refund back by claiming my child, or do I just let my wife claim my child? All right. So that being said, at this point, once I put in this information here, okay, he has no schooling, none of that. Let's see, yeah, there's no healthcare form. So pretty much, this is his tax refund right now. If he wanted TurboTax, this is what he would get. Okay. Now, for an example, actually, I have to slow down because these numbers are different than what's on the W2. Okay. So just to clarify, right here, this is information that is on the actual W2 that I did not input. So these numbers may change. Okay. So remember, if these numbers are 5, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are not the same that's on the W2, then it means that one of these codes are missing. So just look at the W2 and check the code, put in the amount, boom. And then what I'm going to do from here is just I'll put year prior 19. And then once I do that, I want to make sure that I click the right one. This was a retirement plan. All this information is on the W2. There's no extra knowledge I have. I'm just copying. I'm pretty much doing data entry at this moment. So with that being said, this is his quote at the moment. $690. This is not including our fees to file. So whenever someone owes the IRS like this, they're most likely going to pay cash up front. Okay. Now with this guy, there's a few things that can be done to help him not owe. Okay, so for an example, if he was in the military, um, there would be an employee business expense. Okay, and let's just say that he does freight transport for the military. Okay, what I would do next is I would go to the second page of the 2106. This is the form that I just added this right here. I go to this next page, and then I will go to the first line. I will put in last year's date, and then I'll say he drove 30,000 miles, just for an example. And then I would put yes, yes, no, no. And I would see this number right here, 17,400. I'm going to go to page 2106, page 1. And I'm going to put that number in. So I'll pretty much just copy and paste it right here. Now watch his refund. Boom. So now pretty much he's in the plus, because what we did essentially, if you click on return summary, you'll be able to see the whole return. You can see that his taxable income is now $28,878, which means the IRS is taxing a rate of $28,878, and he's due a refund. Now, without this small deduction that he got, remove that, he goes back to 690. If you check the return summary, his taxable income will be larger. So it's 46,000. So essentially what we did was we wrote off a little bit under half of that just using mileage. So if we go back and we put in 17.4, okay? And remember, the number that I'm looking at is the taxable income. So you see this number? That's his taxable income. All right. So this is how much the IRS is charging him per rate. So this is the amount of money that is being actually taxed on. Is 28,878. It was just at 40,000, so therefore it's less money he's being taxed on and more of an opportunity for him to get a tax refund. All right. So with that being said, this would be an ideal tax return for someone that that is looking to let me close this out. This would be a tax return for someone that they would benefit greatly if they qualified for deductions such as this. Uh, Although we would love to help this guy, he doesn't qualify for that deduction because he's not in the military. But there's also other deductions. If you go to Schedule 1, 2, and 3, you can read the deductions off of that. Alimony, all of this is just additional income, and these are adjustments to income. So adjustments to income are deductions. So if he's a school teacher, guess what? He gets to write off deductions. All right, and you can come over here. All right, so this will kind of tell you, if you hit the arrow button on every slot and you hit the question mark, it'll tell you about these deductions. It'll tell you if the taxpayer was an eligible educator in 2019, he or she can deduct up to $250 in qualified expenses paid. So pretty much they can deduct up to $250 in qualified expenses, okay? But if the taxpayer and spouse are filing jointly, both of them were eligible educators, the maximum deduction is $500. So pretty much it's $250 for each teacher. But he's not a teacher, so that doesn't apply to him. What you want to do is you just want to go through these and see what applies to this guy, okay? And you don't have to do this for every return. Once you get things rolling, this all becomes very simple. Moving expenses for members of armed forces. If he was in the military, of course, he'll get a big tax deduction for there. Health and savings account deduction. So people who put their money in health savings accounts, they get that money back or they get taxed less. And also, if you have a self-employed health insurance deduction, all these terms, don't get overwhelmed by what they mean or whatnot. Honestly, I don't know what most of them mean. They change so often. I'm just saying that some deductions apply to some people. Okay. So with that being said, this is the guy's estimate. So if he was to come to me and he was not eligible for, you know, mileage or whatnot, I of course would tell him that he owes $690 to IRS, and if he would like to file this tax return, I'll probably charge him $100 or $200 up front. Okay, but just see the power of how this form actually works. So, for an example, let's just say this guy drove way more than that. Let's say he drove 45,000 miles. Okay, and so what I'll do is I'll go back to page 1. I'll look at this number. It's now 26,100. Remember, before it was 2,000, right? 26,100. Now it's 3122. Okay. So this is the thing. This guy wants to know if he's going to file jointly or if he's going to file separately. Watch the drastic difference if he files jointly with his spouse. Okay. So if he files jointly, boom, you're already going to start seeing things pop up once I put in info. So boom, because the deduction is much greater when you file jointly, he's already getting a tax refund. And you're not even doing anything to really help that situation or helping him qualify for deductions. He's already getting the major deduction of filing jointly. That's why it's always better to tell people to file jointly because they get greater deductions. So now that $58,000 income, if you go to return summary, is now taxable income is $34,000. All right. And we haven't even added any type of deductions or anything like that. So if you go to his spouse, I'll put just the reverse of the social. Okay. So with that being said, there's the spouse. And they have a dependent. So watch this. Okay. So now that we put in the basic information, look at this. He's already got a $3,600 refund because he's married filing jointly with a dependent, and he got the child tax credit. But watch this. If I uncheck earn income credit, nothing changes over here, right? Reason being is because he makes more than the allowed amount for a joint income. Okay, and you can look up the bracket on the amount, the maximum amount allowed for earned income credit. But the only way that he can get an increase in his tax refund is if he makes less money or if his AGI is lower. And the only way that can happen is if he qualify for reduction. I'm gonna use this one because it's the most simplest. So we're gonna stick to the numbers. Let's just go back to this form and put in 26,100. Look at that tax refund. It jumped up to 6,551. His AGI dropped down to 3,200. Is it possible to live with a child and a wife for 3,200? Yes, it is. It's tough, but it definitely is. Okay. Imagine if we did more. All right. Oh, so yeah, I have to go back to the other page. More than that. Boom. So 37,700. Okay. So now look at this return. Tell me if this makes sense. You're telling me that someone makes $20,000 with a wife to feed, a man to feed, and a baby to feed. Does this return make sense? No, it does not make sense. It doesn't make sense for someone to make $50,000 and to use $37,000 of their income for for employee expenses. Okay, so this return does not make sense. You just have to make sure that whenever you do things like this, and let's say the guy comes and he says, I'm in the army, I spent this much money, and this is my result. Okay, the result is I spend this much money and I pocket this much money. This is what I bring home. Very likely this person is going to get a letter in the mail from the IRS stating that they should provide proof of income or proof of deductions. Okay. So with that being said, this is literally how you do an estimate, minus the 2106. This form you don't always use, but I just use this form just to kind of explain to you how exactly you would write off deductions for someone in that example. So with that being said, when you do a quick estimate, I'm going to do one for you really quick. Okay, so let's do a different estimate, and the guy actually is probably going to get a tax refund. Boom. So boom, boom. I'll keep the same address. Okay, I'll delete this because we're not gonna do verifying jointly anymore. We're going to do head household. Okay. So for example, if John Doe came to me and his address is this, where's that? Okay, his birthday is this. This is where he works. And he was a head of household, which means he has a dependent with no spouse. And his dependent, this is his birthday of dependent, and he gets the child tax credit. Remember, the earned income credit is not going to function right now because there's no money or W-2 put into this, okay? But I always like to check this. All right, so now that you have this, literally once you get done with putting in the dependence information, you can move on to the next form and start inserting money. So go to W-2, boom, boom. And I'll just make up a number. Let's just say 35,000. And let's just say pays 3,700 in taxes. You don't have to put in any of this for estimate. Verify the income, and that's it. Literally, I just did that in probably less than, I'm hoping, 3 minutes. Okay, literally 3 minutes. I just did an estimate by having the guy's information in there, the dependent information in there, putting in the W-2. Boom, that's how much that he's getting back. But remember, we never ever tell them they're getting back this amount. Okay, what you want to do is you want to go down, you go to your price page, and then you want to put in your amount. Ours is already at default of 500. Okay, you can keep the 500 or put whatever number on there. It's totally up to you. Once you put that amount on there, you want to come to this very last page, SB Tiller page 2. Oh, sorry, page 1. This is the amount that you're going to tell them that they're going to get a tax refund for. Amount paid directly to you, $43.9605. This is the amount of money that you're going to tell them that they're getting back on their tax return. Okay? Not this amount, this amount. Because if you tell someone they're getting this amount before all of the fees, processing fee, check fees, tax preparation fees, additional products and services, like if you tell someone this number and they get their tax return and $600 is missing, they're gonna come visit you, and they're not gonna be happy. All right, and not only that, we're gonna have to deal with that. The whole office will have to deal with that, and people will do crazy things over money. So just be very transparent with people and let them know this is the amount that you get back on your tax return. And I'm not telling you you have to be adamant and tell people how much you charge, because a lot of people honestly don't care. As long as a refund is great, and you're fair. But if they ask, tell them how much you charge. Tell them how much you charge them during the estimate, and let them know how much their tax refund is. Simple as that. All right. It's really that simple. You put in the information, you put the price in, you come down, you get the results. You relay the results. If they agree to it, then they send you the W-2, the socials, all the information, and you go back and you clean everything up. And then you put in their names, you put in their address, you put in their phone numbers, you put in all the information that you missed the first go around when they redid their estimate. All right. So with that being said, that is how you do a tax return. Simple as that. All right. That's how you do an estimate. It's really simple, really easy. Don't get it don't get it, don't get frustrated because this is just a bunch of words and numbers. You're literally chasing red. All right. So this red spot on the earned income worksheet is going to be everything on the right is filled in. And then it's going to be if yes, yes, no, yes. Simple as that. Okay. Now imagine if you put no here, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to start reducing the earned income credit because you're telling the IRS that they don't have a social, which you don't want to do that unless that applies to them. So hit yes, and then go back to where it was, and make sure that this is a no, because if they're disallowed for any reason, the IRS is going to try to hold this earned income credit if you put yes. So put no, boom, and that's if it applies to that client. And honestly, that's it, guys. You're gonna go ahead. You're gonna go in here in the red. You're gonna clean everything up. Put the employer ID, the name code, all the information, um, and it'll populate. Simple. And so, just not to make this video so much longer, that's how you do a quick estimate. And if you have any questions, shoot your questions in the chat, and I'll go ahead and upload this video tonight. Thanks.